Hi, I'm Chap Bettis, author of The Disciple Making Parent, and this is my audio blog, where I read some of my blog posts in audio format for your convenience. In today's episode, we're going to be thinking about handling temptation like Joseph. Handling temptation like Joseph. And in some ways, this is a little more devotional. In Genesis 39, 8-10, it's recorded that Joseph refused the advances of Potiphar's wife, and he ended up paying the consequences. Let's read Genesis 39. But Joseph refused. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you're his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. We are daily faced with temptations. Some are small and some are large. All threaten us. Some will destroy God's best plan for your life. Joseph, a young man in his early 20s, was faced with a destiny-altering temptation. Would he participate in secret sin, or would he resist? Let's look at several principles about how Joseph handled this temptation. First, he resisted temptation and refused sin. He was not passive. He took an active stand against the temptation. He refused repeated temptations. He would not indulge in even just a, quote, little sin. If we will defeat temptation, it's because we're actively resisting and refusing with the power of the Holy Spirit. Resisting sin is not a matter of, quote, letting go and letting God. Rather, resisting sin is a matter of getting God's power and getting going. So first, Joseph resisted temptation and refused sin. Second, he saw the temptation as a sin against another person. For Joseph, this would be a sin against his master who had treated him so well. Most sins, even seemingly innocent ones, harm those in our church, in our current family, or our future family. Remember how Achan's sin affected the whole nation? Similarly, Proverbs says that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people, and that's found in Proverbs 14:23. Giving into temptation will always harm others in some way. So, second, he saw temptation as a sin against another person. Third, Joseph saw the temptation to sin as a wicked thing. By definition, sin is a wicked thing. We don't use that word much today, but sin is wicked. The strategy of temptation is to make sin seem attractive in the moment. But like a worm for a fish, the hook is hidden under the bait. Take the bait, and the hook has you. Part of growing in holiness is actually hating sin and calling it wicked. So third, Joseph saw the temptation to sin as a wicked thing. Fourth, Joseph saw the temptation as a sin against God. All sin is against God, even quote-unquote victimless sin, and sin that seems to only affect you. The God who made you loves you and has the best plan for you. He lives within you and wants to bless you, and he's grieved and offended when we sin. This is part of what the fear of God means, fearing God's disciplining hand. So fourth, Joseph saw the temptation as a sin against God. Fifth, Joseph fled from temptation. He ran out of the house. The only way to handle some temptation is to flee, to run away. Paul commands Timothy, flee the evil desires of youth. That's found in 2 Timothy 2:22. And you can also see times we're told to flee in Proverbs 6:8 and 1 Corinthians 6:8 and 10:14 and 1 Timothy 6:11. There will come times when we're not to stand and fight a tempting situation, but should immediately make a hasty retreat. So, fifth, Joseph fled from temptation. Sixth, Joseph accepted the painful consequences of unjust suffering. After being falsely accused, Joseph spent over 2 years in a jail. Resisting temptation will cause suffering. Some of that suffering will be against our flesh that wants to sin. There still is a bent towards sin within us, and we will fight sin until we die. Some of that suffering might come from, quote, friends who want us to sin along with them. If we refuse their entreaties to sin, well, then we may be ostracized. Sixth, Joseph accepted the painful consequences of unjust suffering. And seventh, Joseph was blessed because of his integrity. Because he resisted sin and kept his integrity, God was able to exalt him when the time was right. Eventually, he was raised from prisoner to viceroy, or second in command. God's road to blessing always goes hand in hand with resisting sin. Well, can you think of a temptation you're facing? How is it wicked and a sin against God? How is it a sin against other people? Can you flee? Are you willing to resist the bait? How does God want to change you? Well, thank you for listening to the Disciple Making Parent audio blog. Did you know that we give away the audiobook of The Disciple Making Parent for free? We're on a mission to equip parents to pass the gospel to their children. So if you'll sign up for our weekly family discipleship email, we'll send you the audiobook of The Disciple Making Parent for free. Simply visit thedisciplemakingparent.com/free audiobook. That's thedisciplemakingparent.com/free audiobook. Thanks for listening.